Yo, what's going on? Happy Monday. Okay, how should we do this? I don't even know if this is going to work, but let's see. Okay. Good morning. It's Monday. We had a nice 3% sell-off on SPY and SPX Friday. I don't think anyone expected it, but it is what it is. I mean, I changed my bias halfway through the day, but I wasn't expecting that kind of move. And now we're kind of going the opposite direction. Q's definitely sold off more than SPY, primarily because you have semis and more of the technology names in the Qs and NASDAQ versus the S&P. And I do think the reason for that sell-off wasn't necessarily because like something happened in the macro. I think it's really just market makers and dealers positioning themselves for the SpaceX IPO. That's literally what it is. The IPO is worth about 1.7 trillion. That's how much the market capitalization went down on Friday. And so where my mind goes is like the trend has definitely changed towards the downside. Whether that's going to last or not, no clue. But where my mind goes, like I'm interested in shorting all the pops at this point in time because we see a clear change in trend, right? Like if I look at the daily on SPY, for example, like, yeah, it's changed trend. It might go up. I'm not saying it won't. It might do this head and shoulder pattern and kind of come down. Or they might just hold this area and kind of go back up towards higher highs and higher lows and maybe even go carve out a new high, right? New all-time high, rather. But as it stands right now, you know, we're coming into this 4-hour rejection spot. That's really what I'm looking for. That's where I'd be interested in getting puts. If it doesn't hold, if it holds, then great, get some more calls. And for what it's worth today, I'm just going to play SPY in the morning until like 11 a.m. And the reason for that is simple. Like VIX is elevated, so all the contracts that we buy are really expensive, especially on SPX and NDX. If I look at the contracts right now, let's go look, right? The close to in the money strikes or at the money strikes at 7,400, 7,420. Like, do I want to spend $4,600 on this strike? Or do I want to go out the money at like 7,500, 7,480 at like 1,000, right? Historically, these would have been $2, $200, $300, right? Now they're really expensive. So I'm going to wait for the first 100 minutes. That's really what I'm going to do before I take an SPX trade because it's really expensive and I don't think it's worth the risk, to be honest. Like I'd rather just save the buying power. I do think what's going to happen throughout the day, VIX will carve out one final high, probably reject here, complete that head and shoulder pattern, and I kind of go back down, right? If this is not already a head and shoulder pattern, which I think it is. They probably hold around that 17.25 area before deciding to go back up later in the day or maybe even later in the week. So that's what I'm looking at. I want to wait a little bit before I play the SPX because the contracts are really expensive. VIX, we'll see what it does. But you know, when you're moving 100 million shares on Friday, for example, that's not an accident. That's institutions, funds, market managers, whatever, deliberately saying that they're going to carve out some of the gains from semis and technology in general to go and carve out money for SpaceX, right? That's really where my mind is. I already swung some Oracle calls. We'll look at the chart afterwards on that. But, you know, you don't walk away from selling $100 million and change your mind on a Monday compared to the Friday afternoon, the sell-off that we had. So that's one read. The other read is dealers have moved the call walls down and the put walls down. On SPY, the call wall is now 750. The put wall is at 725. So like this is the range that we're playing in, right? It's basically where that rejection spot is all the way down here. So yeah, we might just consolidate here a little bit in the first half of the day and then decide to either go up or down by 2 p.m. 2 p.m. is typically when institutions, you know, come to the table and start buying or selling. So Fridays, we saw the big boys basically sell their positions starting 11 a.m. And then by 2 o'clock, they just aggressively sold down even more, right? So this is now a lower high. And you're likely to go lower and lower and lower before you come into maybe like this area, which is the prior all-time highs, if we test that. And then that's where I'd be looking to swing longer dated calls, maybe the 750s, 800 calls for March 2027. That's realistically where my mind is. So that's SPY. We went over VIX. We went over one of the bigger reasons why the market sold off. It had nothing, in my opinion, had nothing to do with the macro environment or what's happening in the Middle East. It's really around how these funds are positioning themselves for the SpaceX IPO. And by the way, these funds are forced to buy SpaceX, right? They're institutions, they're market managers, they're pension funds. It's really like for us to figure out how we want to play this. But, where my mind is, the trend has definitely changed towards the downside. And I'd rather get either in the money calls just to ride up the first half of the day, first half hour, or whatever it might be, and then see where it kind of goes from there. It's a lot of volatility, which I really like because we can play both sides. But again, these contracts are hell expensive. So I don't know if it's worth the risk right now to risk, $6,300 on one contract. That's a lot even for me. So that's what I'm looking at. We'll see where that goes. QQQ, same story. They moved the pull wall down to 725. Sorry, the call wall down to 725. Pull wall down to 700. Micron, they're basically getting out of most of these semi names and most of the memory names. And nothing to me is screaming like, stock market crash. I just think they're going to sell a bit more before they end up, buying them back up over the summer for pennies on a dollar, frankly. So this is likely going to go down towards the pull wall, which is at 790 now, I believe. So I'm pretty interested in shorting this name. If it, gets up here, I have zero interest in chasing anything other than maybe some in the money spy calls for the time being. Let's go through Oracle. They do have earnings. I think their earnings will be good. I don't see why they'd be bad by any means. But the contracts, again, are really expensive. And I got the 240 strikes for Friday, I believe, that are probably read by like 50, 80%, whatever that might be. I'm just going to hold on to them. If it comes back, it comes back. I don't see the point in averaging into it. I might get something closer to in the money or at the money, like 222 strikes or 226, whatever that might be. So this is one thing that I'm that I'm interested in watching, but no promises on how that will go because it's an earnings bet. Intel, yes, Google and NVIDIA are looking at them as a backup supplier for Foundry. The downside that I see here on Intel, and I'll just draw a line here, is we really got to get above this pike, come back down here, double tap, and then kind of decide to go back up or down. We'll see. But again, you're now still in a downtrend. So let's see where this goes. If I just mark out the high from here and just draw a simple trend line, we held that pretty well. We just started breaking out of today pre-market when that news came out. But I do think this double taps here before it tend to go up or down. We'll see where that goes. And let me just see what else I got to cover. Oh, yes, let's go to some George updates. All right, so over the weekend, I spent some time with Neek and with Sky and with Easy. Yes, let the market do its thing first. We're not going to predict. We're just going to see if they do continuation, which I don't think they will, because Monday is all retail, especially in the first hour or two. It's all retail, and then the institutions will step in or frankly sell. I don't know what's going to happen. But you're going to step in or sell by 2 o'clock. That's really where my mind is. But one thing I did want to show. Over the weekend, I spent some time with Neek and with Sky and with Easy. And we spent some time thinking about how whales are accumulating, how we can see those contracts, how we can see the positioning. So we do have some upside bias for next week, right? We saw this coming in on Friday. They've been building this position for 74.90 calls for next week for 10 days. And for the last 7 days and 3 days, they've been building these 7630 strikes, 7565, 7600, and 7630, oddly enough. So I do think we have a week of buying next week, but I don't think it's going to be lived that long. So this is something that I'm going to keep an eye on. And then we'll see if the zero-dated hedges or zero-dated accumulation starts firing up, or the 1 week starts firing up. And that'll give us at least an idea of where the market's going to go for the rest of the week. So we can have a bias. But I do like these bets. I might take some 7600 Cs whenever VIX drops below 18, which I think will happen at least in the early morning for next week and maybe even for Friday. And let's just see where that goes. I think it's good RR anyways. And one interesting one that they've been building for 10 days with about a decent amount of volume, like nothing crazy. I need more confirmation here. It's the 75-65 calls for June 18th. Next week is OPEX, or whenever that 18th is, so 2 weeks from now. It's quarterly option expiration and also June option expiration. So this is a pretty good read, in my opinion, of where they want the market to be positioned before they continue to sell it off or maybe buy it up. So I'll keep an eye on this and we'll get updated, and then we'll get an alert at George when it starts moving for accumulation, whether that's 0 day or for multi-week out, like starting basically whenever the market's open. So let's just watch for the first 15 minutes. I don't want to oversize today either. I'm going to wait for VIX to kind of sell off and cool off a little bit. I might take my first SPX play around 11 a.m. And then definitely in the afternoon, I'll be watching for what the institutions are doing, because the contracts will get cheaper because of theta. Hopefully VIX is down by then, so the contracts get even cheaper. But as it stands right now, I don't think you should oversize. I don't think you should chase anything Let's just see if they start building positions in the first hour or not. If we find that they're not building the positions or continuing the uptrend, then again, I'm interested in shorting all the pops. Quantum names might run IBIT, or what's it called, Qubit, whatever it's called. QBTS, sorry. I do think there's some legs for Quantum. Looks like they're catching bids, or at the very least, they're starting to break out or, complete this cap and handle. UNH is a top watch for me. The entire healthcare sector, frankly, is catching bids, and George saw that last week. So I do think it's going to go higher. And JPM is a top watch for me on financials because the contracts are pretty cheap on Thursday. I might just see if this continues up or not. And we can clearly see that this is an uptrend ever since this bottom here. So let's see where this goes. I do think we're going to go. What's up? Did you say something, Nick?
Yeah, just immediately just shit the bed on the long premiums. Put spike from that. The money's went up like $900 immediately.
Yeah. Let's see what they do. They kind of started showing their hand when they started accumulating.
How we kind of determined 10 days was a big thing, and I do like how some calls have been accumulating for 10 days. I think that's kind of interesting.
Yep. I agree.
So potentially, if it plays out again, today could be a bigger move, but I'm not banking on that. I don't really see anything super obvious today.
Yeah, we just got to watch the first hour and see where this goes. I want VIX to continue selling off so our contracts become cheaper. The calls that we did swing from Friday are going green, like 20% is 20%, like take the win.
Where are we at? Where's spot at? 74.50?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm gonna go to the daily on these. Like I said, these do have room to run. It's just how right.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
So I would go peek back at the money calls right now. That's just above spot 74.60 on the one. They just went to come down and tag that 200 EMA and the fill on the 74.60s, which is a bigger candle. Not crazy, but 15, and then immediately ripping up to 22. So they're probably going to be fucky in the first hour and a half of today.
Yeah, that's probably right. I do want to hedge myself here. Like I'm going to start swinging some more like hedges that are puts that are close to at the money. Like the one that I'm looking for tomorrow, for example, I'm going to be looking at the 73, 75 puts. That's really what I'm looking at because I think they're good risk and reward. But I want to wait until later in the day to get them. I really want VIX to collapse here before we do much.
I mean, I'm up 20% on the 75.05s right now.
Nicely done.
I only swung one for science.
And nicely done, Sean, on the JPM calls. Yeah, I mean, we can't really do much until we see if they're building the positions or not. The volume definitely isn't there. I can tell you with 100% certainty that there's no volume right now. And they're slowly building the upside position, but there's a lot more downside pressure than there is upside, right? You're still put heavy, still in the accumulation mode, and not a lot of volume, frankly, on the dealer exposure. Like $9 billion, that's literally nothing.
So here's what I would look at right now. Not to get ahead of the move, but I would go back to the June 10th 73.55 puts, those ones that we saw on the roll.
Oh yeah.
Right now, as we speak, they're at the 200 EMA, just sitting. There's no close. They still have 6,000 OI. I mean, it's a hard read now, but if their position isn't done yet, that tells me we're probably gonna have a little more downside. Especially if they're selling some calls into this. It's hard to decide in the first
20 minutes,
3 minutes until we see 30 minutes and if any positions close.
I do like 7,400 puts here. Like a lot.
7,400 puts?
Yeah,
I like them.
I do like 7,400 puts right here. I don't know if it's worth gambling on, but I would be technically triggered in.
Yeah, see that VIX spike? That's a stop hunt. Or, I mean, stop and relatively speaking.
Oh my God. They shot from 810 to 963 on the 7,400s.
Yeah, now they're $10, $11 almost. Let them do what they want for the first hour. Honestly, I don't think we have to do much or rush into anything.
Look. Hopefully they reject on the 200 here when they tap it at 13. Or it comes down to 8 and I can get in.
I don't know if you'll get that. Let's see what they start accumulating for zero-day. Bizarrely, I don't know why they're buying the 7600s. I just don't get that.
All right, we're about to test the 200 on the 7400 foots.
Nice.
We're at 1160. That was a 3-minute 100% move. There's 1270. The hourly just test it's 5. So like this is make or break point for puts in my opinion.
I think they start buying this up, or at least shaking out retail on the upside in the next like 15 minutes. You know what? I do like the 7600s for June 18th. Let's see how much they're worth. $7,600 for June 18th. I like $2,000, and your target is like, $5,000 or $6,000. Like that's pretty good RR.
Yeah. I'm gonna look at like cheaper puts and see like the 73, 70. Oh no, everything's fucking up 100%. I'm gonna gamble on puts today, I think.
Yeah, it's probably a good call. The Friday 7500s are probably good RR as well. Or 7550s or 7520s.
Kind of see what happens. Like I said, I still think puts do have room to go. It's just a matter of like where.
Exactly. Yeah, George is saying there's no volume either. All right. Yeah, really.
Oh yeah,
can't
these
do
contracts
much.
are not moving normally.
Say that again?
Like even for 1 minute, these contracts like are not moving how they should.
Yeah, I agree.
They're just gapping.
Yep. This is a classic hunt. I wonder why they're spilling the 7,500 calls for today. That's kind of sus.
They're selling or accumulating.
They're accumulating.
Your at the money puts, the 7430s are about to tag the 200 EMA. So if this rejects here, then we reverse again for calls. It might be a range day. I mean, if they have that huge 3% move and then a 1% move overnight, it might be a range day.
Yeah.
If this is a range day, I would almost like it better because then it gives me my like 10 my play. So then I would be heavy into call tomorrow.
That's probably right.
That's like zero thinking. That's not like